Good morning. It is day number 11 on the Palmetto Trail. I am picking up where I left off yesterday. So it was a bit of a walk to get to this trailhead. Kind of a long story, which I'll spare you, but we got to stay the night at the campground here. So I'm walking straight through the state park this morning anyway, and I'm so blessed that we got to stay right here, no driving involved. And it was lovely, and the birds are amazing. I love South Carolina. I just feel like I hear the birds constantly, and I just love it. The campground cost $40, and their facilities are okay. It always hurts to fork over the money, but very grateful as well. Now, what history does that rock wall have? I know there was lots of battles in this part of the country. After Gideon and the Israelites defeated the Midianites, because of Gideon's courage and untiring perseverance, the men from the various tribes who comprised of his army proposed to Gideon that he should become king, with succession from father to son. The move was an expression of the growing desire of the Israelitish tribes to unite under a monarchy, so as to more easily and effectively give mutual support against the enemy. But Gideon refused the offer of hereditary kingship. He recognized that his accomplishments were due only to the power of God working on his behalf. He had been called of God to perform a special service for the nation, and he accomplished it. God had not called him to be the monarch, and he knew that his children would not be able to lead the nation unless God called them. Oh, we're coming on to a lake. It's called Lake Johnson, and I get to walk by it for a bit. Very peaceful setting. I've never seen a thistle like this. Here's a better, bigger one that bees seem to like. And an even bigger clump. I am fascinated by these thistles. They are beautiful. The nobility of Gideon was shown in the rejection of the kingship. This offer must have been a temptation to him. It often requires more strength to resist the allurements of proffered power than to defeat an enemy. But Gideon at that moment stood true to God, and his words worthily crowned his heroic deeds. However, Gideon said, "I would like to make a request of you, that each of you give me the earrings of his plunder." So they did, and it came to 20 kilograms of gold. And they also gave the crescent ornaments, pendants, the purple robes of the captured kings, and the chains that hung on the camels' necks. While Gideon refused kingship, he proceeded to do some things that a king would likely do, and which Moses had earlier forbade, like amass wealth and take many wives. Gideon used all this stuff to make an ephod, which is a special garment, apparently like an apron, which was reserved for the high priest alone. Because the angel of the Lord had appeared to him and burned his sacrifice at Ophrah, Gideon thought he should set up a shrine at this place. But God had not authorized such a shrine to compete with the tabernacle, where his presence resided. The religious center of the Israelites at that time was in Shiloh, which was in Ephraim, which was where the tabernacle was situated. Without God's presence, the ephod, which was meant to be an instrument for worshiping the Lord, ended up becoming an object of false worship, and a short step from that idol to idolatrous worship of other gods. Because he had asked for miraculous signs in the past, and they had been granted, it makes sense that he wanted an ephod for himself, because it was through that God could guide his people. And since he was the judge of Israel, he thought it would be right handy to be able to ask God anything to help him judge the people. His sin consisted in taking over the prerogatives of the Aaronic priesthood without divine sanction. This deviation from the right prepared the way for wider apostasy, both among the immediate family and among the tribesmen. The people were thus led astray by the very one who had formerly overthrown their idolatry. Gideon doubtless did not intend to turn from the worship of God, and his intentions may have been good. However, his subjective evaluation without divine guidance regarding the need of a new religious center opened the way for disaster. There was no excuse for Gideon to abandon the program that God had marked out for divine worship and service. If Gideon had continued to seek divine guidance as he had done formerly, he would have spared his family and his people much sorrow. Gideon's history is a warning that more than good intentions are required to make an act commendable and right. Furthermore, the greater a man's position of prominence, the more far-reaching the influence will be of his evil example. Hence, the greater his need in recalculating every aspect of his life to the divine pattern. The only right rule of life is the law of God. Despite his failure, Gideon is commended in the Epistle to the Hebrews for his earlier acts of faith. Well, this is a big, beautiful bridge. In the spring of 1780, a group of loyalists advanced on the home of the Thomas family near Kelsey Creek. The home was being used to store gunpowder for the Patriot forces in the region and was guarded by Captain John Thomas, Jr. and about 24 men. Upon learning of the approach of the larger Loyalist force, Captain Thomas removed the powder and left a few members of the Thomas family behind to create a diversion. By maintaining steady fire from the house, the family forced the Loyalists to withdraw, helping to secure the gunpowder for future use. Israel had peace for 40 years, and Gideon had 70 children. Yikes, because he had so many wives. Then he died, and the story continues in our next hike. My phone says I've done 9 miles, so I think I deserve some lunch now.